Hi guys, Casey here with Primal Survival. So today I'm going to show you how it is that we cook down walnut syrup. So this right here is our sap cooking station. The reason that many people choose to cook the sap outside is because obviously you can see the amount of steam. Not to mention, cooking this in the house would take forever and really use up a lot more electric. As you see, we are using the wood stove method. We have a little homemade system built here, which is pretty basic. And I do believe that most people that cook syrup, just as backyard sap kind of people, make a system pretty similar to this. Over the past few weeks, I have been collecting walnut sap daily and storing it. If you are not freezing your sap, you have about a 2-week time frame before it will spoil. I am filling all of my chafing dishes almost full with sap, and then I'm going to place them on my wood stove cooking burner. The point here is to get your sap to boil. It is only through boiling down and cooking down that it will actually turn into syrup. So this is what your setup should look like initially when you pour your sap. We are using Osage today to burn because you need your fire as hot as possible. There are many people that choose to be technical in this process as far as candy thermometers and checking the heat. For those that are interested in the technical side, 219 degrees is what you're looking for. However, I want to add that our ancestors absolutely did not have thermometers, and everything was left up to what you saw and what you felt. Now, although I will be straining again, it's important to strain and stir your sap as it is cooking. Today I'm going to be cooking my sap because over the past couple weeks we've had an extremely good sap flow. So I'm actually going to start cooking down a lot of my sap because I have a little over 60 to 70 gallons already. I'm obviously running out of places to store my sap. Now, I showed in the other video, the tree tapping video, that a lot of times I will store my sap in food grade totes outside in the snow. You also have the ability, of course, to freeze them in a freezer. But of course, with anything, you're going to run out of space. Now, because I've gotten so many gallons, I did not want to leave all of that cooking for one time. So today I am going to cook 35 gallons of walnut syrup, which this should give us about a half a gallon of syrup, or excuse me, I'm going to be cooking 35 gallons of sap, which should give us about a half a gallon of syrup. Now it is a game of patience. Basically, this takes a long time to boil down. So at this point, we're just going to wait, continuously stirring our sap, straining it, checking it, and waiting. Now, as my sap cooks down, the middle chamber obviously is going to evaporate the quickest. So what I'm going to do is add sap from the cold chamber to the hotter chambers. And this is how we are able to cook our sap down slowly. The goal here is to get my sap to boil down so that it will all fit into one chamber. So I want to talk about the history for a moment. Maple syrup, or any kind of syrup, is really widely known throughout the world, and many people don't eat pancakes and waffles without it. But a lot of people don't know it was actually the indigenous people of Canada that were first making maple syrup. Now, the techniques that they used were obviously much of the same techniques that I'm showing you today. But rather than having steel chafing dishes, they would have been using ceramic pots. Once again, I'm just continuously moving my sap to the chambers that are cooking down. And I'm usually doing one bucket at a time because I don't want them to overboil, because then we're just really wasting vital sap. We continue to stir, strain, stir, strain, stir, and strain. Patience is absolutely a virtue when it comes to making syrup. As my sap cooks down, I continue to add fresh sap to my chamber furthest from the fire. The goal here is to boil down all the sap that you have into one container. This process has taken me well into the evening. I started out with 35 gallons of sap, finishing with about 3 gallons of cooked down sap. I am now straining it through a strainer and cheesecloth, and I'm going to take the remaining sap up to my house to finish cooking. Here is where math equations play a large role. If it takes 50 gallons of walnut sap to make 1 gallon of syrup, and I started out with about 35 gallons of sap, I should end up with a little over a half gallon of syrup. This gives you a good way to eye up and judge when you are getting close to being finished. Now this is the hard part, knowing when your syrup is finished. Syrup, when cooking, is going to look liquid until it literally burns on the bottom of the pan. One way I'm able to tell when my syrup is finished cooking is I add a little bit to a coffee mug. I will allow it to cool and then pour it out. If it ribbons and is thick, it is absolutely finished cooking. Now that my syrup has reached the desired consistency, I'm going to add to jars. Allow your syrup to cool just a bit, or it's possible that you could break the jars that you are using. I started with 35 gallons of sap, and I ended up with about 6 jars of syrup. This gives you a great estimate on the quantity. Now it's breakfast time. I think it's safe to say my syrup is kid approved. So now you guys see the process that it takes to cook down the syrup. Today we did the walnut, but the process is the same for any kind of tree sap that you're using. So this would be your sugar maple, ash maple, birch, etc. This is an excellent way to utilize your land, to forage, to be more self-sufficient or self-sustainability. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and until next time, stay wild.